Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here for Acterra's Promise to Our Planet series. I'm Tom Kabat. I'll be presenting some information that my partner Josie Gaylord and I put together during the course of looking at a 10-home study of making electrification plans in San Mateo County. Now, why electrify? It's really for those reasons down on the lower left. It's for the environment, for your home safety, for your family health, for your legacy, and also it can be fun and provide better comfort and dollar savings. And on the peninsula, all our utilities here have policies where they're matching all their electric volume they provide with purchasing carbon-free electricity to provide to us. So it's already carbon-free today. That enables a quick transition away from fossil fuels. And so electrification is what's needed to meet all our energy needs with the clean renewables, which are electric renewables. That'll give us the cleaner air, both indoors and out, and it'll save money, improve health, improve safety. And it's just a good thing to do. Also, right now, gas rates are $4 per therm here in February, and electric rates are a lot more stable. So what is the building electrification? It's really approaching the 5 big end uses. By end use, we mean things like heating and clothes drying and the gas cooking, and then substituting out gas water heating and getting rid of gasoline for the car, switching over to electric vehicles. Doing those 5 things in the home really just moves that fossil fuel out of your life and has you using the fossil-free electricity. Other people associate things like rooftop solar with it and batteries. Those are both optional. You can do those if you want. People, may want to do solar just because it's a cheaper source of electricity. And so it can be had for 5 to 10 cents per kilowatt hour. And then battery systems can make the electric home even more resilient and reliable than a gas home. I'll talk a little bit about panel optimization. And so that's really just selecting power efficient equipment and having it right sized and not oversized for your home. And sometimes using controls that would pause a piece of equipment. If the whole building was near its peak load, it could pause the car charger for 15 minutes while you finished cooking something and then resume the car charging when that's done. So really this panel optimization is really about better device shopping, selecting the power efficient models of equipment and selecting it in the right sizes, and if you need to, use controls to cover that last 10 or 20%. We've been finding that for homes up to about 2,800 square feet, they can electrify on their 100 amp electric panels, because these 100 amp electric panels can really deliver a lot of power, about 24 kilowatts of power. By taking these practices to stay on the existing electric panel, you can save the $5,000 cost of an electric panel upgrade. And it really does favor using efficient devices, though. So this graph is just showing some of the 10 home results on the left, and my partner Josie's and my houses on the right. Ours, at the point we made this, they were just almost fully electrified on the right. The others on the left were just starting. The blue area down at the bottom is showing their highest electric load for any hour or 15-minute period in the past year. So that's the highest it ever got, was up to 35% of the panel rated capacity for the home. And some of them were down around 15%. And so the green space is all this available space on people's existing panels. And most of the ones in this set were 100 amp panels. One of them was only a 60 amp panel. That's this one over to the left. So the other thing I'll talk about besides electric panels is heat pumps. You hear it coming up all the time about heat pump space conditioning for keeping you cool in the winter, cool in the summer and warm in the winter. Because a heat pump for space heating is really just a two-way air conditioner. And even your refrigerator that you're already pretty familiar with, it's a heat pump that moves heat in one way out of the 5-degree Fahrenheit icebox, and it jacks up the temperature of the heat it pulled out there up to a warm enough temperature it can blow it as warm air across your toes. You've probably felt that coming out from underneath your fridge from time to time. So that's warmth that was actually extracted from a much colder place, raised to a higher temperature, and then rejected into the kitchen. Well, these heat pumps I talk about are just bigger devices like that with a two-way valve. And so in the winter, it can grab heat out of your yard, raise it to a nice warm temperature, and use it to heat your house. And in the summer, you're probably familiar with air conditioning. That takes heat out of your house at, say, 80 degrees and rejects it out to the outdoors when the outdoors is 100 degrees. So the air conditioner is a heat pump. So these heat pumps are super efficient. One unit of electric energy can move 3 units of heat and put all 4 of them into your hot water, or push all 4 of them outdoors in the summer, or grab 3 units of heat from the yard and the 1 unit of heat of energy from the electricity and put all 4 of those units of energy into the house in the winter. So it's like it's 300 or 400% efficient. That's much better than any gas device. Typical gas devices are 60% efficient, up to maybe 90% for the best ones. So when we look at home electrification, we kind of look at these before and after cases. So this house started with a 50-gallon gas water heater in the garage, and then we recommended they move up 2 sizes because they had a bigger family, up to an 80-gallon heat pump water heater. That's a model that uses only a 15-amp circuit because it just has smaller resistors in it to do backup heating. With a big tank, you don't need to do much backup heating because a big tank of water is like a big thermal battery. So it's got lots of hot water to deliver on all that morning shower, rush hour going on. And then nowadays, there are even some models of 120-volt plug-in heat pump water heaters that don't need a special circuit anyway. The other thing we were looking at for that home was they already had on the left an air conditioner, that yard cube type of thing you sometimes see in people's yards, and a gas furnace. And so we just had them use the old circuit that went to the air conditioner and place the new heat pump out there. And so this putty colored box here is the heat pump, and it would do the cooling just like the air conditioner, but it also would do the heating. And then this black box here is the air handler, and it would replace the gray furnace. So it's a pretty easy, just box swapping, we call it. Replace one thing with the other, try to reuse the same circuit. And then we were finding that it really made sense to look for high efficiency, low sized equipment, like a 3-ton, that's 36,000 BTUs per hour. A ton is 12,000 BTUs per hour. So that's how much thermal power it's able to deliver. And then look for inverter driven equipment. And so that means it's got a nice computer inside it, controlling it, able to modulate its capacity to just match what you need, so that it's not overdriving the house and then having to shut off and then coasting to you're uncomfortable again and then turning on. That's what your furnace is used to doing. But a heat pump tries to just zone in on the temperature target and stay there. So those are the kinds of solutions we were looking at. This house had a great big $12,000 gas range. And so we shopped around and found that there is a 48-inch, I think it was $10,000 induction range, but most people are using much more economical cooking means. And so there's lots of available, roughly $1,000 to $2,000 30 or 36-inch induction ranges and cooktops available. And then also there's a new 120-volt plug-in battery enabled cooktop coming onto the market soon. For clothes drying, they already had a regular resistance electric dryer that was using 22 amps. And so we were suggesting a heat pump clothes dryer for them. Or they could use the same thing I've got in my house. It's a large machine that you put dry, dirty clothes into, and it washes and dries them in the same machine, just plugged in where the washer was, and it gives you dry, clean clothes. And I don't have to visit it in between to move wet clothes from one place to another. Anyway, so there's a couple different options on clothes drying that are fun and kind of better service than gas is giving you. And then in this house for EV charging, there are different ways to go. One is there are different brands of EV chargers that have variable settings, and you can dial in lower amperage for them just to take up the rest of the space you have on your electric panel and not go over. And or you can just install the right NEMA type electric outlet. They have different codings for how many amps they're able to deliver, but in this case, they would have had a 12 amp delivery on a 15 amp plug. And that's enough to give them, I think it was about 25,000 miles a year of car charging. There also, I mentioned sometimes you use controls. And so one example would be there's a company called Simple Switch, which makes a hardwired 240 volt charger controller that can pause the charger, or another company makes something called the DCC9, which also could pause the charger. And what they do is they keep an eye, they've got monitoring clips, and the machine is looking at the whole electric panel load. And when it gets up to the top of its range, say at 80% of its rated capacity, it pauses the car charger. And it checks back every 15 minutes to see, is the load gone back down again? And then there's a company called span.io, which offers the same kind of thing, but for every circuit in the house, if you really want to go high tech and try to control everything. And then there's a number of little pitfalls to avoid. So you don't want your first moves to kind of paint you into a corner. So the pitfalls are to avoid installing power hogs like 50 amp EV chargers, when a 20 amp charger can give you 40,000 miles a year. Why put in a 50 amp charger? And so it's just, being deliberate about how you size things, and instead of always taking the biggest size anyone offers on the market. So that'll help you avoid painting yourself into a corner and requiring an electric panel upsize to complete the rest of your project. So you don't want to pick any sloppy equipment at the beginning. So that's why you make a plan, which kind of helps you define what are the power efficient pieces and features you're going to pick, so that your electrician can follow it and not have you do an upsize. The other problem we found is people wait too long and their water heater goes out, and they get set in an emergency position where the family says, you need to get hot water here by tomorrow. And then you end up getting whatever's on the truck. And that's usually not the best way to go about it. So I recommend not waiting for that kind of stranded asset disaster of having your water heater blow out. Go ahead and proactively replace it now with one of these efficient devices. And then avoid oversizing your HVAC equipment. Go down about 2 sizes. Our furnaces are like rockets. They're way overpowered for our houses, and it's not even that comfortable. They overshoot, and then they slam off, and you have to coast down. Then they slam on and overshoot again. So that's not the way to go. It makes more sense to pick a smaller heat pump and let it zone in on the right temperature and give you comfort round the clock. The other thing is avoid undersizing your heat pump water heater tank. Go up a tank size. Well, thanks everyone for sitting through all that. Hopefully it was informative, and that we'll be able to help people get a head start on their electrification plans and make their journey easier.